May 2022, the third largest stablecoin on Earth went to zero. Terra USD, UST, carried an $18 billion market cap. It was supposed to hold $1. Always $1. That was the entire promise. Inside a single week, that promise evaporated, and the wreckage took roughly $40 billion of value down with it across the Terra ecosystem. Not a slow bleed, a vertical drop. Holders who believed they owned cash equivalents watched their balances melt in real time. The word stable did a lot of quiet work in that name, and it was a lie. To understand why a stablecoin can detonate this fast, you have to understand what was actually holding the peg up. The answer, it turns out, was almost nothing. And nothing scales beautifully, right until it doesn't. Most stablecoins hold $1 by holding $1. Cash in a bank, treasuries in a vault. Terra held nothing. UST was algorithmic. Its peg ran on a swap. Anyone could always trade one UST for exactly $1 worth of its sister token, LUNA. That's the whole machine. If UST slipped to 99 cents, arbitrageurs would buy it cheap, burn it, and mint a full $1 of LUNA, pocketing a clean penny. That buying pressure was supposed to drag UST back to $1. Burn UST, mint LUNA. Mint UST, burn LUNA. A balancing loop fueled by greed with zero cash behind it. On paper, elegant. In practice, the entire structure depended on one fragile assumption, that LUNA would always be worth something. Take that away and the loop doesn't stabilize anything. It accelerates the fall. Now, why would anyone hold $1 that pays nothing? They wouldn't. So Terra built a magnet. Its anchor protocol advertised a fixed yield of roughly 19.5% on UST deposits, 19.5%, on something marketed as a stable dollar in a world where banks paid almost nothing. Capital did exactly what capital does. It flooded in. By early 2022, around 75% of all UST in existence was parked inside Anchor, chasing that rate. Nearly $14 billion sitting in one protocol. But that yield wasn't earned from real lending. It was subsidized, paid out of a reserve that was visibly draining. So the system became dangerously top-heavy. Most of the demand for UST wasn't belief in the peg. It was rate chasing. And rate chasers don't stay loyal. They leave the instant the math turns. That exit door was about to get very crowded. Every reflexive system needs a first crack. Terra's came in the trading pools where UST swapped against other stablecoins. On May 7th through 9th, 2022, hundreds of millions of dollars of UST were pulled out of the Curve liquidity pool in a short window. That pool was the shock absorber, the place UST proved it could trade at $1. Drain it and the balance tips. UST slipped first to 98.5 cents, a small number, to a peg, a catastrophic one, because a stablecoin's only job is to never move. Once it moved, the 75% sitting in Anchor for the yield did the rational thing. They ran for the exit. Selling begat selling. Within days, UST broke through 70 cents. The peg wasn't bending anymore. It was snapping. And now the arbitrage loop, the supposed safety mechanism, was about to be pointed straight at the system's own heart. Here's where the design turns lethal. The protocol still honored its promise. Hand in one UST, get $1 worth of LUNA. But LUNA's price was now falling. So to pay out $1, it had to mint more LUNA tokens. More tokens meant more supply. More supply crushed LUNA's price further. Lower price meant even more LUNA minted for the next redemption. That is the death spiral. A self-feeding loop where the rescue mechanism is the poison. LUNA's supply exploded from roughly 350 million tokens to over 6.5 trillion. Read that again? Trillion. Its price collapsed from around $80 to fractions of a cent. UST, the thing all this was supposed to protect, bottomed near 10 cents. The absorber token absorbed nothing. It just amplified. Once confidence broke, the math had only one destination, and it got there in days. $40 billion doesn't vanish quietly. It pulls others down with it. The hedge fund Three Arrows Capital, heavily exposed, blew up owing creditors around $3.5 billion. The lenders Celsius and Voyager followed it into bankruptcy. Terra's founder, Do Kwon, was later arrested. That's the contagion of an algorithmic failure. But here's the part people misread. Even fully reserved stablecoins can wobble. On March 11th, 2023, USDC, issued by Circle, backed by real cash, slid to about 87 cents. Why? $3.3 billion of its reserves were trapped at Silicon Valley Bank, which had just failed. The cash existed. It was simply frozen, and for a weekend nobody knew if it would come back. Same symptom, a broken peg, but a fundamentally different disease. One was missing money. The other was just locked away. That distinction decides everything about what happens next. So why did one coin recover and the other die? Look at what stood behind each. USDC repegged to $1 within days. Once regulators backstopped SVB's depositors, and the $3.3 billion was confirmed safe. Real dollars existed. The peg was scared, not insolvent. UST had nothing behind it but a reflexive token that the panic itself destroyed. There was no floor, so it found zero and stayed there. Permanently. And this wasn't even new. In June 2021, archi-finance's Iron stablecoin and its Titan token ran the exact same algorithmic spiral. DeFi's first true bank run, vaporizing roughly $2 billion, with Mark Cuban publicly caught in it. The pattern was a year old when Terra repeated it at 20 times the scale. The lesson is brutally simple. When a stablecoin wobbles, the only question that matters is what's actually behind it. Cash heals. Reflexivity spirals.